All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, January 30th. We have a 5-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays. So if that does interest you, so what I'm actually rolling with myself, absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. All right, in terms of final plays from yesterday, it was a crazy one. We rarely have this much action going. I'll explain it. There is some context here, but we had, I think it was 15 plays. We hit 10 of them, so I will take a 66% hit rate any day of the week, 3 times on any day. You know what I mean? But the one thing I will say is that these were all way lower unit plays, and a lot of them were, like 4 of the plays were Daniel Gafford related. If Daniel Gafford had a good night, we would have cashed all, if not most. If he didn't, we would have lost them. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like we were sitting here with a million units deployed yesterday. I think all this considered was just over 3 units. So yeah, we pick up a little over a half unit yesterday. It looks a lot better optically than it actually is because there's a ton more green than red. But just listen to what I'm saying, right? 15 plays, they weren't all full unit plays. In fact, most of them were 0.2, 0.3, that type of thing. And they were all kind of the same play broken out into multiple versions. So realistically, yes, this looks amazing. It was a green day, a profitable day. We'll take the cha-ching, but it wasn't like this world-beating type of a day. We only picked up, again, just over a half a unit in profit, which is okay with me. The battle that we've had in January, it's okay with me coming out of a green day there. Unfortunately, our ride of the day. Got to drop the womp womp on Lammy here. 3-leg parlay. You said it was easy. There's one play in there that I think a lot of people in the comments even said that's a little risky there. Raptors money line, Cleveland Cavs money line, and then you had the Charlotte Hornets money line. Who that both the other teams won, right? Both the other teams. Cleveland made do with Miami, and we had the Wizards with the +7, and you know what? Raptors took care of them, but the Hornets played Brooklyn last night, and that final score, I think they lost by like 21 points. So, yeah, womp womp deserved there. Unfortunately, I did like the plus value, and clearly a lot of people in the comments do. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use ride of the day, hashtag ride of the day, or ROTD. Give me your favorite play of the day, and then I pick whichever comment gets the most likes, and we jump on board. We tweet it out right there. That is my Twitter /X. We tweet it out. We post it on the Guy Boston Sports site, and best of all, we shout you out in the next video, win or loss. This was a loss, but had Lammy won, we would have continued to ride with their play until they do lose on the daily. So yeah, go ahead and drop your favorite plays with the hashtag ride of the day in the comments or ROTD. We're on the search for a new one today. But all right, what do you say we jump into today's slate? 5 games. I don't think we're going to have 15 plays like we did last night, but you know what? We are indeed a psycho, and we show that very often, so you never know. Keep an eye on the pinned comment for the final plays. Absolutely free. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Let's jump into game number 1 here. Cleveland taking on Atlanta. So Cleveland on a back-to-back. We mentioned it. They just played Miami, right? They stomped Miami. I would say stomping, right? 126-106. I think they won the third quarter or the fourth quarter by 10 points, in the first quarter by 10. The rest of the game, Miami kind of hung in there. In fact, Miami won the third quarter. But talk about starting good and ending good. That's what Cleveland did, right? Now, minutes played perspective. Mitchell only played 30, and yes, I would say only. Evan Mobley only played 31, yes, I would say only. Allen played less than 30 minutes. You did not have Darius Garland. He was out yesterday. So this Cleveland team now, they are at home. They could still be sort of fresh. Now, fresh is probably too drastic of a word. Like they are on a back-to-back. That's a fact. But I will say, this season, I do think Cleveland has managed their back-to-backs fairly well. Like they've looked okay. I don't really mind them in this spot. Now, you guys know how I feel about double-digit points, right? I'm often looking for a reason to potentially get to the the opposite side or the underdog. But this is an Atlanta team that just received some pretty bad news. Jalen Johnson looks like he's going to be out for a year. Trae Young's been banged up. Like, yes, they do have a young and a lot of guys that can kind of fill in, right? Like Richiche, whatever his name is, probably gets a little bit more action and whatnot, or more usage without Jalen. But to me, this is just not the spot to go out on a limb and pick Atlanta against one of the best teams in the league, right? So again, it's 10 points. It's a little bit too much for me. I'll probably end up leaning towards Cleveland, though, in this one. In terms of what we have from a total perspective, now Atlanta can play at a fast pace, right? But what's Cleveland do? Cleveland's defense has been very good. They've been good down low, which is where Atlanta likes to score from, and they've started to get a lot better at defending the perimeter, which that was kind of Cleveland's kryptonite. Again, probably too much of a drastic word, but that was their kryptonite earlier on in the season. They're good at defending both now, so I do like an under in this spot. Cleveland's on a back-to-back. Do they really need to go out there and drop a bunch of points? No. All they have to do today is most likely prevent Atlanta from running and from scoring. So I like the spot here. One thing to note as well is that Cleveland's been running a ton of pick and roll all season long. We should know that. They run the pick and roll with Mobley and Garland, as well as Mitchell and Allen, and they set up lobs for Mobley and Garland and that type of thing. But this is an Atlanta team that has the second worst effective field goal percentage against the pick and roll ball handler. So I do have a couple spots here that I like. Obviously, we like I said, Cleveland in the under, but a player prop, what I don't really mind is the idea of taking a peek at Darius Garland. He's going to be the guy that has the fresh legs in this game, right? He's also going to be the pick and roll ball handler, which they really, really struggle against. Similar type guys, Cade Cunningham, he had 29 points last time they played. Devin Booker had 35 last time they played. And Darius Garland already against them this season had a 19.5 points line. He finished with 29. Now, his line right now is 21.5. It's like they know he's, one, been playing well, and two, the only rested guy here. But I don't mind him for points. I also don't mind him to make 3 threes. He's hit that in 3 straight games. This Atlanta team is terrible against above the break, right? Literally worst in the league. So Darius Garland most likely is my guy today. Again, he fits the bill for pick and roll defense, which especially against the ball handler. That's a big struggle of Atlanta. And he can knock down threes, which they can't, and stop a nosebleed at the perimeter. So give me Cleveland the under, and then a potential peek at Darius Garland. I think with his fresh legs in this matchup could be a good spot for him. But he also, I hate to jinx myself, Darius Garland's due for kind of a stinker of a game at some point, right? He's been scoring a lot, making his threes. He's due, but I hope it's not today if we do roll with it. All right, Washington, 8.5-point dogs at home. They are on a back-to-back here. We had them last night, and whatever reason, I got to Washington. And there was, you go back and watch it, there's reasons. Like, I didn't think Toronto was, I think they're a little bit of a facade, or they're not that great on the road, which that was the case last night, right? All that can still be true, and we can still acknowledge that this Washington team just stinks. You know what I mean? Like I think everything I said about Toronto yesterday probably is correct. I just somehow, some way, dummy-brained and underestimated just how bad this Washington team is. Now, the Lakers here, kind of middle of a long road trip. They still have 2 more road games. They play the Knicks, and then they play the Clippers, but that Clippers game clearly is kind of a home game. Like, they're at least homecoming, right, to Los Angeles. Not in the same arena anymore, but nonetheless, point still stands there. So I do think that there's something worth noting that, they're kind of just in the middle of this crap, and maybe this is a gotcha moment for Washington, but I can't see a reason to get to Washington, especially after last night, and especially them being on a back-to-back. What am I going to sit here and be like, Washington again? Screw that. This Lakers team should be able to absolutely dominate in the paint, so they choose, if they do choose. And that's going to be, Anthony Davis and Rui Hachimura. LeBron James and Rui Hachimura. No Anthony Davis in this game. I think he's out for, a week? But you might look at that and be like, oh, man, that's tough. No, it's not. Like, this Washington team's so bad. Alex Sarr may not play. If he does, sure, whatever. I still think LeBron can kind of dominate the paint. Same with Rui. So LeBron's numbers are obviously going to skyrocket with no Anthony Davis, right? His points line right now, let's see if we can get to that. His points line is 27.5. I think that's a little bit too high, obviously, right? But if we do take a peek at Rui's on the injury report as well, but let's see what his line is. I don't think we have his line out just yet because we're still waiting to see. I think it's going to be Dorian Finney-Smith starting, but yeah, we don't have a line yet, so I'll keep updated on that. If that becomes, a little too inflated or whatnot, we might not roll with it, but his usage, the way he plays too, and shooting the paint, his usage should certainly go up. So yeah, give me the Lakers minus the points, as well as the LeBron/Rui look. The problem being is LeBron's is very, very high, right? Like I've mentioned that. So I'm not sure if I really want to get involved with that. I will say in this spot, 223.5, they're clearly thinking that this Lakers team, who comes up with these lines, clearly thinking that this Lakers team is going to dominate the pace, because Washington, 5th fastest pace over the last 10 games, yet you have a line down there, 223.5, right? So I do think that this is a Lakers spot. I'll also trust the under, but I might just look at Washington team total under. That seems like it's a decent spot here. In fact, let's see if we can get an updated line there, because if it's anywhere around, that'd be 8 from that. If it's anywhere around 10, like if we can go under 110 some way, somehow, depending on the juice to pay. Yeah, see, under 109.5 for minus 150, that's a lot of juice in a game in which they do have the pace and the Lakers defense isn't great, but that might be a spot I'd lean towards in terms of a total. Real quick, guys, Sleeper Picks has yet another free square for you guys, and they have the play $5, get $55 back deal going on right now. Seriously, I do really love Sleeper. I tell you guys all the time, the fact that you can hand them a $5 bill and they say, here is 11 $5 bills, regardless of if that $5 entry that you place ends up cashing, you still get that payout as well. But yes, you get 11 different $5 free plays over there. It's a great deal, one of the best in the market right now, and you get this Ben Caro free square as well, 0.5 points. The dude's an absolute stud. He's healthy now. He's going to score at least 1 point, right? Get to the line, miss one, make one. You cash this square. You can pair it with some other plays, some of your other favorite plays. If you guys don't know what Sleeper is, you essentially pick players more or less based on their set projection. The more you win, the more you get paid out in your entry. What I love about Sleeper, I've told you guys before, the payouts are dynamic. You put a player in there, it's going to change the multiplier of the payout based on that stat that you picked and the projection you picked, more or less. They don't follow a fixed payout structure like a lot of other apps. 2 for 2 is 3x, 3 for 3 is no. They have their own multiplier system, which makes it really, really cool and fun. So if Sleeper's available in your state, which it is available in most states, go ahead and check it out. That link will be down in the description, as well as the pinned comment. You can sign up with those links or just use that code GuyBosson. You'll get all the same stuff, that play 5, get 55, the Mancaro square, and all the goodies. So go ahead and check out Sleeper Picks, guys. That link will be down below. Seriously, do recommend it. If you're not on it, I think you'll regret it. So let's go ahead and jump back into these games now. We're going to Utah taking on Minnesota. Minnesota on, the back-to-back here. They played against Phoenix last night, and honestly, I think that was an impressive win. Now, they were only 1 point, or actually, I think they ended up closing at 1 point dogs, right? But that was pretty much a pick-em game, I should say. And I was damn impressed with how they played. Anthony Edwards dropped 33 points. You had 28 from Randall, which is weird because there's a couple times that I watched bits and pieces of that game, and I kept thinking, like, Randall doesn't want to be here. And then I'm looking at the box score because I wasn't keeping up with it. I was watching the OKC and Thunder, the OKC and Golden State game a little bit more, and I'm watching. I was like, oh, he doesn't look interested. I checked the box score, and I'm like, the dude's like, he finished with 10 of 16, 8 of 10 from the line. So yeah, good for him, I guess. But Ant-Man, obviously 8 of 9 from the line. He hit 3 or 4 threes as well. Big game from him. But all that to be said, we're not recapping that game. I was impressed by that win. That was a Phoenix team that was playing decent basketball. They fended off 28 from Booker and 33 from Durant. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I give them a lot of credit for that win. In terms of where we come out in this game, a couple things that I would want to note. So, Minnesota obviously is going to want to shoot a lot of threes, right? And Utah has been just absolutely dreadful against the threes so far this season. And they have had so many guys in and out of the injury report and all of that. There's a little something fishy here when I'm seeing just 7 points, because if Minnesota's truly turning a corner and they're going to have their guys, why wouldn't they just be able to go out there and absolutely rake, right? So I do lean towards yet another favorite in this video, Minnesota, but something fishy about that line. What I will say is, I don't mind the idea of an over. Utah should be able to, allow Ole defense to a Minnesota team that already scores fairly efficiently. They're 15th on the season in terms of offensive efficiency, but 5th in the last 3 games, or I think it's 6th in the last 3 games. So they're playing a lot better basketball. They've scored the 8th most points per game over their last 3 games. Their competition, sure, you could say that it's not like the hardest of competitions, right? They played Phoenix, Atlanta, and Denver. Like, Denver's defense isn't what it was, but those aren't like, it's not like they played the Pelicans, the Wizards, and I don't know who's another bottom, the Trailblazers or something like that. Even though Trailblazers are kind of playing well, but you know what I mean. Like Phoenix, Atlanta, and Denver, I would put Utah below those teams in terms of defense. So if Minnesota's gone 133, 100, 121 against those squads, why can't they drop another, good amount here? And I do expect Utah to be able to at least be a little bit more healthy, maybe contribute. But as I say it, you're probably thinking what I'm thinking is that why not just look at Minnesota team total over? Maybe that's a look as well. This total seems fairly low. Again, we don't have anyone other than Dante DiVincenzo and I think Naz Reid on the injury report for Minnesota, but most of their starters should be good. We can get them at, over 113.5, over 114.5 team total. Maybe that's a look. If we look at Utah's recent opponents, 114 to Golden State, 125 to Milwaukee, 125 to Memphis, 123 to New Orleans, 123 to the Thunder, 136 to New Orleans, 117 to Charlotte. Maybe we just stumbled upon something. We didn't have that in the notes before. I was just looking at the over, but maybe we look at Minnesota team total over. I guess, would worry a little bit about the back-to-back, but Utah's defense is so bad, man, it shouldn't really matter. So give me Minnesota as well as their team total over and the full game over. And yeah, I would target some looks for guys on the perimeter. The problem is, it's Anthony Edwards and then who right now, right? Like this seems like it'd be a great spot for Dante DiVincenzo. But he's out. So yeah, maybe an Ant-Man, another look again. But unfortunately, like this seems like it'd be a great spot for DiVincenzo, and he is out. This is a Utah team that's really bad at the catch and shoot defense. They're a little bit better against pull-ups, but again, we'd be able to target DiVincenzo with some of these catch and shoots. Real quick, in that game, I alluded to it, but didn't really say it. Like, Utah has had so many injuries in and out. Today, John Collins listed as questionable. Walker Kessler listed as questionable. Looks like Lauri Markkanen should be good to go, but just FYI, if you do like the idea of Minnesota, even though they're on a back-to-back, those injuries could be something to certainly watch for as well today. All right, moving on to, honestly, the next two games are probably two of the better games on the slate today, right? We have Memphis taking on Houston. Memphis 5-point favorites. I've seen this move down to 4.5 and then bump back really quickly this morning and then back down. So depending which side you like, you probably can get something either 4.5 if you like Memphis or 5 if you like Houston. I do like Houston today. There's our first, I believe, right? First underdog of the video for a couple different reasons. Now, if you look at their head-to-head matchup, there's been some injuries in and out, so I'm not putting too much stock into this, but earlier in the year, October 25th, 128-108 win for the Rockets. They were 3.5-point favorites. They covered. Then, earlier this month, January 9th, we had the Rockets as underdogs. They end up winning that one 119-115 outright. And then they played, and they were 2.5-point favorites, the Rockets. They played in Houston and won 120-118. So 3-0 straight up, 2-1 against the number this year against this Memphis squad. But like I mentioned, there's been injuries that have mattered in these matchups, mainly Morant being out and the Memphis, honestly, for a lot of the season being banged up too. They are healthy now, right? Unless you say Vince Williams, Spencer, and Marcus Smart make them not healthy. No, they're healthy. On the flip side, you have Houston, who's without Jabari Smith Jr. I think that they've done pretty dang well of kind of mitigating that, right? But Alpi Sengun is listed as likely to play here. We want to monitor that because, like I said, I do like Houston. But if he doesn't play, it kind of totally gets my point thrown out. Both of these teams like to score in the paint, okay? Fifth in terms of frequency, like to shoot in the paint too, never mind actually scoring. We can actually look at the dashboard, and I can show you guys how to get access to this dashboard in just a second. But you can see here, in terms of their last 10 games, their frequency. Where do they shoot from on the floor, regardless if it goes in, where the shot attempt's coming from, right? Houston, 5th in terms of restricted area attempts, and then Memphis, 7th and 5th in terms of in the paint and restricted area. You come down here, I'm seeing a little bit more green in the points in the paint allowed spot for Houston. Now, you look at their percentages, yeah, I guess they are allowing a decent amount of percentage down there, but they're making it very hard for opponents to get down there. They're not allowing guys really into the paint, or I should say at the rim, very easily. So that's why that looks like it's a high percentage, but then you see them have some good numbers here. And then you throw in the fact, okay, well, yeah, Memphis is just a middle of the pack 3-point shooting team. Okay, yeah, they've made, in terms of points from 3 this season, 8th in terms of points from 3 per game. Houston, a very good perimeter defense. So while this is a decent Memphis team in terms of offense and defense, I think Houston's a little bit more complete, if that makes sense. They're a little bit more defensive, and they have guys that can go off offensively. Jalen Green could be one today. We'll talk about him in just a second. Actually, we can get to that now. Houston's the spread pick. We'll get to the total in a second, but let's talk a couple player props. I kind of went right to this. So we're looking at the pick and roll ball handler here, offense versus defense, and this is new to the dashboard as of today, actually. So if we want to zoom in, I can zoom in a little to make this a little bit more clear, right? So What we're looking at right here is this pick and roll offense defense. This is a Memphis team that's bottom 10 in terms of score percentage, bottom half in terms of effective field goal percentage, but yet Houston runs pick and roll 10th most in terms of frequency and scorer percentage off pick and roll plays at the 7th highest clip. So I do think that pick and roll ball handlers like Van Vliet and like Jalen Green could be good looks today. Now, it was a Jalen Green night a few nights ago, right? So we'll keep that in mind. But I do think that Van Vliet could be a nice little look today. I think his points line's at 14.5. Don't mind that, but his points plus assists could be a good look. In fact, I don't think we have an updated line on that. Let me see if I can grab that. His line's 21.5 in terms of points plus assists. That's a little high. I might just look for Van Vliet points today. Van Vliet could get, let's see, he's done that. He's hit his points line in 2 of his 3 games here this season against this team. So maybe that's a spot, but I'm still considering that points plus assists. I could totally picture him kind of coming off that pick and roll. And I mean, especially when you think about, say it's a Jalen Green / Red Van Fleet with Alpi Sengun as the pick and roll guy, right? You think Zach Edey's really going to be able to step up, or, if he does step up, one of those guys will go right by him. If he doesn't, they'll pop the 3. So I do think that both those guys' points could be a look. Jalen Green's line is a little bit higher, and like I said, he's coming off a good game. So, do we always like to take the same guy 2 games in a row? Not necessarily, but 22.5. Last time he played them, he had 42. The time before they had 27. The time before that, he had 22. So maybe we get something involved. Maybe there's a same game parlay potential in there with like Van Vliet 10 plus points, Green 20 plus. I don't know. Maybe we're getting carried away, but I do think that could be the key to their offensive success today. But give me Houston plus the points. These 2 teams are very close. So if you were looking at this saying, I like Memphis, Ev said Houston, now I'm conflicted. If this line was flipped, I probably would like Memphis. You know what I mean? So it really is that thin of a margin. Like, I just like the points. I think it's going to be a close game. So don't really change up what you're thinking just because this big mouth is saying it. In terms of what we have from a total, however, like I said, the last few times these teams played, we've had some high-scoring affairs, right? 128 to 108. That would have barely gone under here. 119 to 115. We had 120 to 118. So they've been around this number, but not necessarily like crushing it. So the score that I predict in terms of our model here is, which this may be coming to you guys soon. I still want to sure things up, but we do have, actually I have to tell you guys how to get the dashboard in a second, so I'll do that. But we do have a 120 to 117 win for Houston, so for Memphis. So that's Houston covering, Memphis winning, and a slight lean towards the under. But a bunch of things that could be coming to the Guy Boston Sports site. I'll go through them fairly quickly right now. So the first one that we have right here, now this is still in, you can see even still, it's still in Google Sheets, absolute beta testing, but the record's been pretty good. We do have game-by-game score projections here based on a lot of different factors and a lot of our own formulas. So that's what I just said, 120 to 117. You see Houston slightly lean, I guess, towards the over because that 0.2 and 0.8 matter. But if you take out the round numbers, then obviously, yeah, then we have, Houston covering, Memphis winning, the over or under hitting, depending if you want to include those decimals. So that's one thing that may be coming to the site. This is the least ready. This is, I still think, not close to being, I teased it in yesterday's video. This is still not necessarily ready to go out there, but you can see it's player projections for the day. So if we, what are we doing here? We got to spell correctly. We'll go to Jalen Green, right? Jalen Green, we have him 21.5, assists, 3.5. Let's see what we have for Van Vliet. We have him, Van Vliet, right here, 16.8 and 6.5 assists. So we do like his points plus assists right there at 23.5, right? What's cool about this is you could say, okay, well, I really only care about that Houston team, and I want to look at guys that are going to play 26 minutes via our projection, and you can obviously get just like their starting lineup like that. Very, very cool with all their stuff included. But again, this isn't available yet. What is available is right here, our NBA dashboard, which you guys do want access to this member section right here. You go over, if you are logged in, you'll get to this, which this is yesterday's slate, because again, this comes out, this updates after these videos are usually done because we record early, but you have every single game broken out in a digestible visual format. Every site that we use to predict these games and go through them and break them down, we pull in multiple stuff. And like I said, I already showed you that, the pick and roll, that wasn't there yesterday. That's brand new coming today. So go ahead and check out these things, guys. Again, 2 of them not necessarily ready yet, but this one right now, if you do want to head over, sign up on the members area. If you're not signed in, you'll quite literally just see something that says you need access to this page. You can view the membership levels. We have options for all sports, which you're going to get our NFL, MLB, NBA. We're working on some more too. But you could also just go by sport if you do really, really want to. So yeah, go ahead and check it out. Like I said, I like Houston in this one. I don't mind Jalen Green and Van Fleet. Van Fleet via our numbers look like it could be a good spot as well, just by our formulated projections there. And then I also don't mind a slight lean towards the under, but I'd probably go Houston and then the player props before I go under, because again, even via our projection, which, sometimes I ride, sometimes I fade. It's all numbers based. It doesn't watch the games. Sometimes I would say, even if it's close, you can still do the opposite, right? So that's very, very marginally the under. I think that Houston's defense is the reason I like the under today, not necessarily the projection model. Watching that back, that was a lot to just throw at you guys. But yeah, GuyBostonSports.com, go become a member. You can get access to the dashboard, help you with your research. And then soon, within the coming weeks and months, we'll be rolling out some of those other tools to you guys that aren't available yet. For everybody, I'm trying to use them, play around, make sure that they're good enough to roll out to you guys, right? But the dashboard, I swear by. So go ahead and check that out. I apologize for throwing so much at you there. I didn't realize we were just rambling for like a million minutes about the Guy Boston Sports site, but a lot of updates to come, which is pretty damn cool. All right, last game on today's slate, Portland, 5-point dogs taking on Orlando. This Portland team, don't look now, but they are on a little bit of a good stretch here, right? They've won 5 of their last 6 games. They've covered in all of their last 6 games, and their one loss was against OKC, in which they covered, right? They lost by 10. They were 13.5-point dogs. Orlando, on the other hand, is struggling now. They're getting healthy. They are healthy now. They're coming off of a double overtime loss to Miami. Their only win in their last 7 games was against Detroit. They've also not covered in 6 of those 7 games, so I wouldn't say they're in the best situation as of right now. The way both these teams are going to play is to prioritize, one, Portland getting to the rim, which this Orlando team's really struggled at as of late. So on the season, 6th best in terms of preventing points in the paint. Last 3 games, which again, they've struggled, and they've also played some really tough teams that, score in the paint. Portland recently, which Portland stomped them, right? They played Miami, who I wouldn't really consider points in the paint, but now with the addition of Khalil Ware, Bam Adebayo getting going and going to overtime, there was some more points in the paint there. Detroit, who's a decent point paint team. So sure, they do have a little bit of an unfair schedule, but you look at Portland, and that's a team that is, I love them in the paint, right? I've said that all year long. Even if their rankings are 16th, it's like this team has played a top 10 in terms of hardest schedule. And the last 2 teams they played, in which they competed in that OKC game and beat the Bucks by 13, Bucks and OKC like to score in the paint, right? Which so does Orlando. I think Orlando probably gets right here and ends up, having the ability to win this game and kind of get in the win column. Again, they've only won 1 of their last 7 games, but 5 points, I think I've seen some 5.5s out there. Doesn't it seem like it's a little bit too much for Portland? It does to me. I don't know if I can get there, though, because, again, I do think Orlando's just right around the corner of being fully healthy. Like Suggs may be back now. Once they have Suggs, Wagner, like everyone, Gary Harris is probable. Like, give this team some less health woes, and I think they kind of click back into what they were earlier on in the year. So I'm stuck in between this one. I do think if this line is going up, I'll say this is the way that I would kind of make sense of it in my brain. If this line continues to go up, I lean more and more towards Portland. If we can still see this at 5, maybe if it goes to 4.5, I like Orlando. So I like Orlando in, I would say, the math there is like a point margin of 5, right? I think that they can win this game. But if Portland gets a 6 number by the end of the day, or 6.5, geez, you know what I mean? That type of thing, it's like, I think I lean in that direction. Now, from a total perspective, it's sitting at 212.5, which makes sense, right? You look at these 2 teams, it's like, well, Portland, 23rd last 10 games in terms of pace. Orlando, second to last, 29th in terms of pace. They have had a couple fast-paced games back-to-back, Detroit and Miami, but you can't really look at my Miami game and say that was played fast. They went to double overtime. Portland, on the other hand, has played a couple higher scoring games as well, both games going over this line. So in terms of total, I think I want to trust to some degree the offenses, right? Like, I think Orlando's offense clicks. I'm kind of trusting Portland's offense here, and maybe the lack thereof of what was good about the Orlando defense originally. So give me the over 212.5. That could be a good spot. I think that if this is a competitive game, we could see some big buckets for both sides here. One spot that I would probably end up leaning towards player prop wise, and we've made some fading this guy this year. Right now, his points line is at 19.5, which I love the thought of taking an under here. Now that I'm saying that, I'm probably jinxing it, but Anthony Simons, under 19.5 points. We cashed that last time we took it, right? Now, this is an Orlando defense that doesn't exactly cover the point guard all that phenomenally, but I do think that, they do cover the perimeter fairly well. This season, they are the number one team in terms of points allowed per game from three. When you look at it from a catch-and-shoot perspective, or from a pull-up perspective, it is a tale of two different tapes. But Anthony Simons, to me, like if he's missing his catch and shoots, which he's going to take a ton of pull-ups, do not get me wrong, right? But if he's going to miss his catch and shoot and his spot ups, which he scores, I believe it's 20% of his points from, then this could be a really tough spot for him, right? So, and in fact, another tease at the dashboard here, which you guys could be doing this yourselves if you had access to it. Right down here, this is the catch and shoot information. You can see right here, number one team in terms of frequency as well as score percentage off those catch and shoots. So I do think Anthony Simons could have a tough time today. My one concern is that, well, he does, play well when they move into transition. I think like 15% of his points are from transition. If I think it's going to be an over game, maybe there's some more transition, but I would go Portland if that number gets bigger. But as of right now, Orlando, as well as the over, and then Anthony Simons, a slight peak towards the under. He did have 21 last time they played, but that was 21 on, let's see if we can find his shooting that game. I don't have that up in front of me, but I can pull it up pretty quickly. Here we go. He shot 53% from the field and 50% from three. Those are not sustainable numbers. So I like Anthony Simons under. Watch him now go for 50 points. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 31. You pretty much made 31 minutes in. Do really appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.